Like, I think you had a shot this year and you missed it because you didn't fix your crease. It may be too late. They may never get back there.
What do you think about McDavid now? So we talked about this a lot yesterday. There's so little time between the end of the season and free agency, right? It's like a little more than a week. Could have even been less had Edmonton forced Game 7, but it's still not much. And today, McDavid didn't exactly slam the door on speculation about, his future. I think that's putting it mildly. I think now it's a real topic whether or not they can do enough to keep him. What do you think he might be thinking?
Well, I also think, like, if you're Connor McDavid, you know what money you're going to get. Like, it's written in stone. You're the best player. You're probably going to get close to a max deal. Max deal is 20% of the cap, right? So in a year from now, when he signs, the cap will be over $100 million. So that could be $20 million a year. So he's going to say maybe he takes 18 and a half. But everybody knows what he's going to get. So the Oilers can't say, we'll overpay McDavid. You can't. He's the best player in the league. So it all comes down to, does McDavid want to stay there? I think he's going to stay there, but you know what? He knows. And his old agent is the president of the Oilers, Jeff Jackson. That was his agent. So I think they all understand the business of it. But at the end of the day, like, if you're McDavid and you see, okay, so the Florida Panthers won a couple, you saw Vegas and Jack Eichel won, and you saw Tampa, and you saw Colorado, Nathan McKinnon win, and you're Connor McDavid, and you're like, Sidney Crosby's won 3, like, you're like, I want to win. So maybe at that point when money doesn't matter because you know the deal, like if he became a free agent or if he gets traded, he knows he's getting at least 7 years at $18.5 million on the free agent market. Somebody's going to do it. So it's all about, does he want to stay there? Does he think he's going to win there? And if the answer is no, well, the Oilers are in big trouble.
Bulldog, is this something the Sabres should consider for president of the organization, like Peterka's agent or his dad or whoever he likes having around? Should they do something like that? Sneaky Joe had an idea for McDavid, Marty, that you may have heard of, or you might have had the same thought. Like, if he ends up leaving Edmonton, what would be best for the league? Joe said Florida. It's like Durant and the Warriors, just like that would get people talking.
It would get people talking. If McDavid ever left the Edmonton Oilers, I know that nobody's going to like this answer, but what would be best for the league is if he went to Toronto, Austin Matthews went down to, Vegas or LA or whatnot. Like, they would want like an American in an American city, keep McDavid in the mecca that is Toronto. Like, that's what they would want. Business-wise, it would make sense. Now, I don't know if that's what McDavid would want. I don't know if that's what the Leafs would want. But, when you put it all together, that would make sense for Gary Bettman, Bill Daly, the networks, and all of that. They would want this type of scenario.
Yeah, as soon as I saw the clip of McDavid today saying, that being said, I got to do what's best for me and my family, that, wow, trade time, Toronto, they want to change. I mean, they're going to have change no matter what. I mean, Marner is, I'm sure, not going back there as a UFA here, Marty. But Matthews is a great starting point for a trade for McDavid. But there's no move clauses. Like somebody that big is, and I'm assuming Matthews has protection, although I didn't look today to make sure. But somebody would have to agree to go to Edmonton, and that maybe could be tricky. But man, the idea of just spinning out trade ideas, like who's got a player that could be a starting point for a package to get you McDavid, Toronto absolutely fits the bill.
Now, I don't know if you guys remember when Eric Lindros got drafted by Quebec, right? So he sat out a year. After a year of him sitting out, he was traded to the Flyers. Actually, there was 2 deals in place. There was a trade to the Flyers and a trade to the Rangers. They ended up having to go to court to see which trade was agreed upon first, and the Flyers end up winning. But the deal that the Flyers sent to the Quebec Nordiques was like $10 million. There was Duchesne on the fence. There was Forsberg. There was a first-round pick, another first-round pick. It was Mike Ricci. It was insane. Like like Connor McDavid would get like 3 times that. Like if you trade Connor McDavid, you're trading everything that you have. So that's why I think it's unlikely. If McDavid doesn't sign, he's probably walking out as a free agent, and then it becomes the silly season of what would be the summer of 2026.
The cap makes that kind of trade like almost impossible now, right? I mean, we talk Sabres trades all the time, and just like sort of what can you make sense of in terms of a return for certain players? It's hard as opposed to in those days. Matthews has full no move through 28, by the way. Marty, what about the Sabres now? I know this is your profession to talk about them, and so I'm sure you're ready for this. But like, is there a certain strategy this offseason? It seems like what we're hearing the most about is Alex Tuch and Peterka and whether or not they do want to stay, which is very familiar, unfortunately, but doesn't sound like a great starting point for getting a team, going the right way.
So the way that I see it is I think this is all agent-driven. I know these players. I talk to these players. They love the team. They love the group. They know that there's steps to be taken. But if you're an agent and you're trying to build this case that I need to maximize the value of my client, what are you going to use? You're going to use, something that is going to go rampant through the media and through the fan base, and they want to leave. They don't like it here. They want to, and then you say calls are being happening and teams are calling. I feel like it's all agent driven. That's me. But there is definitely some work to be done for the Sabres to say, okay, we need to sign J.J. Peterka, and he doesn't have arbitration rights. So if he doesn't sign with us, like if it's October and November and we don't have J.J. Peterka, like we're in a tough place because we need him in the lineup. He's a really good player. He's one of our best players. So I think that there's a strategy that is not often used here because of the position the Sabres are in. They have to start out good next year. They can't go October, November and be, 10-16 and say, oh, we're good, without J.J. Peterka. So if he's not signed and if the agents are holding their side of the thing and say, no, we're not signing, then you may be forced into trading him. But I don't think that is what J.J. Peterka wants. And I really feel like Alex Tuch and everybody else wants to be a part of it. The big thing is they were a top 10 scoring team last year, and they had a terrible power play. If the power play gets better, they're probably a top 5 scoring team. But does that alone make you a playoff team? No. You have to make sure your blue line is better, and you have to make sure your crease is better. And so that is what the focus on. I'll be interested to see how that works out at the draft and free agency, but that's what you got to focus on. I know JJ talk, all of that. That's the big talk, but behind the scenes, like if I was working on it, I'd say we have to be better defensively. Blue line and crease is my focus.
Where do you think you end up at in goal here? Luukkonen just was year one of a new extension, pretty significant. Levi had another strong year in Rochester. Do you maybe just go with that, or is there some idea out there that piques your interest to sort of jump the line ahead of Luukkonen?
I have a hard time thinking that you would be going UPL and Levi. Levi's got another year where he's waiver exempt, right? He doesn't have to go on waivers to be going down to Rochester. And look, let's be patient with a goaltender and develop. Maybe at some point in the season he makes his way back to Buffalo and there's a role, there's a factor. But there's 2 ways to go about it. Either you swing for the fence and you say, I'm going to call on Binnington. I'm going to call on Gibson. I'm going to call on all those goalies that may be in the market, or I'm bringing a good veteran guy. And we saw what James Reimer did at the end of the season. Like, he played well. Now, I'm not suggesting you bring back Reimer, but maybe there is somebody out there that is a good veteran guy. Jake Allen is a really good veteran guy. The rumor is he's going to stay in New Jersey, but who knows? Like, maybe that's a possibility. There's good free agent veterans to be able to come in and support, but that would mean that you're hoping that Luukkonen is playing at the level of 2 years ago and not last year. So there's a lot of different scenarios that I'm sure they're talking about. they're spinning. But everything would be on the table. Everything would be on the table for me because that is a big year. That is a very big year. And again, just like JJ Peterka, you may be forced to move him if he doesn't sign or if the contracts aren't aligning because you can't start the season 10-16 or 10-15. Well, it's the same thing with goaltending. You don't want to say, we'll figure it out by Thanksgiving or by Christmas. By that point, it may be too late.